Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Emily.
And we're the hosts of the I Don't Think So podcast. Each episode, we discuss a different story, theory, or mystery and decide if we think it's believable or if we really don't think so.
Here at the I Don't Think So podcast, we are affiliated with Flurry Sports, and we present our theories, mysteries, stories, and everything else on your favorite place to listen to podcasts every Wednesday. If you like what you hear, go ahead and give us a like, a share, and follow us on Twitter at I Don't Think So _EH or all of our socials. It's not even Twitter anymore. But, everything at I Don't Think So _EH besides YouTube. It's IDTS Conspiracies.
Definitely check those out. We are in our month of May, and we thought that true crime was the move. I was telling Emily that I had saved this story a long time ago, like probably even before we did our last true crime section.
Yeah.
But then never used it, and then I was like freaking out, like, have I done this before? Because I researched it and then never used it. So I'm super excited to get to talk to you about this today.
Oh.
So what kind of led me to discovering this story was based on the Netflix series The Watcher. Did you ever watch that?
Some of it, but I've heard of the story before.
Yeah, so the premise of the story of The Watcher was that this family buys this house in New Jersey. They start getting letters of people like watching the house, saying like, thanks for bringing in young blood, like all this stuff. So Netflix pretty much took that story of like the Watcher house and combined it with this true story of this crime for the series. So in the series, there's this man that keeps like showing up. Like they think he's like an inspector or a realtor or something like that. But then he's like in their house making a sandwich. He's like watching them. Because I think he might be the Watcher, but then they also think some other people might be the Watcher. And then you get to find out the history of this guy's past. And when they're talking about the history of this guy's past, it's based on the List murders and how John List ended up killing his entire family. So, it led me kind of down this rabbit hole of investigating this murder because it's so crazy, like the turn of events of how everything happened. So I'm going to kind of just share that with you today.
Ooh, I love a twisty turny.
Yeah, so this is how John List killed his entire family and got away with it for 18 years.
Oh my God.
So, after John List murdered his wife, mother, and 3 children in 1971, he assumed a different identity, remarried, and started a completely new life until an episode of America's Most Wanted finally led police to find him in 1989.
That just tells you, anybody can find love.
Yes.
He got married twice.
This is the story. So John List really appeared to be this perfect son, husband, father. He worked really hard as an accountant, traveling into the cities each day, providing for his family, and they lived in Westfield, New Jersey in a mansion where he lived there with his mother, his wife, and 3 children. It had 19 rooms, including a ballroom, marble fireplaces, and a Tiffany skylight.
Oh, so just an absolutely stunning mansion.
Absolutely. List and his family were considered the embodiment of the American dream in the early 1970s in this town. They attended church every Sunday. They were devout Christians, and List even taught Sunday school. Everything upon the surface just seemed perfect.
Oh.
They were like your cookie cutter, stereotypical American family.
Yeah, like white picket fence.
Exactly.
Except for it's like wrought iron fence.
Mm-hmm.
They're so rich.
However, things took a nasty turn in 1971. In 1971, at this time, 46-year-old John List lost his job at the bank he worked at in New Jersey. And he tried to find new employment, but nothing really panned out. However, List couldn't bear to tell his family about the loss of income, so he kept pretending to go to work each morning.
He
continued this lie for weeks upon months, and List spent his days at this train station reading the newspaper and secretly skimming money from his mother's bank account to pay the mortgage on this giant house. He refused to go on welfare, as it would entail excruciating embarrassment in the community and violate the principles of the self-sufficiency that he had learned from his father.
Get a new job, my main man.
Exactly. But eventually, he believed the solution that he'd arrived to would be more acceptable to his dad than going on child support.
Stealing money from your own mother?
John List would later say it seemed to him the only option was murdering his mother, his wife, and his children.
I feel like you didn't look at all the options. If you're like, the only one, I have to kill people. Like, that's never the only option.
This is John's own accounts to the New York Times. He claims that on November 9th, 1971, he shot and killed his wife, Helen, his 16-year-old daughter, Patricia, his 15-year-old son, John, and his 13-year-old son, Frederick, and his mother, Alma, aged 85. They were shot methodically, one by one, as they were coming home. Helen, his wife, was first. List saw the children off to school and then came home and shot her in the kitchen as she slipped on her usual morning coffee. Then
oh my God.
He went up to the 3rd floor and murdered his mother in bed. He shot Patricia and his younger son, Frederick, when they returned home from school. He then made himself a sandwich, closed all of his bank accounts, and went to cheer on his other son, John, and his high school soccer game. He gave him a ride home, brought him inside, and then shot him in the chest.
What the fuck?
His entire family was dead, and John List set out to escape justice for all of his grisly crimes. John laid all of the bodies of his family members on top of sleeping bags in the ballroom, and then composed a note to his pastor, who he felt would understand his actions.
If your pastor understands you for murdering your entire family, it's a bad pastor.
He feared his family, confronted with the world full of evil and poverty, would turn from God. So he thought killing them was the only way to secure their spot in heaven.
Don't bring God into this. God had no place in this.
He said List was not, however, willing to suffer the earthly consequences of his actions. In an effort to baffle the police, he cleaned the crime scene and used scissors to remove his face from every single photo in the mansion.
Like they didn't fucking know you were there.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He canceled, but then they didn't have any sort of photo evidence of like, this is what the man looked like. They just have to go off of like descriptions. He canceled all deliveries and contacted his children's school to let their teachers know that his family would be on vacation for a few weeks. He turned off the lights and the radio, leaving religious hymns playing in the house's empty rooms.
What a creep!
He slept in the mansion where his family were dead, and then walked out the door the next morning and wasn't seen again for 18 years.
Ew.
About a month passed before neighbors, curious about the constantly burning lights and empty windows, began to suspect something was wrong with the mansion. When the authorities entered the home on December 7th, 1971, they heard organ music piping through the intercom system, and they found the 5-page note that John List had left, explaining that the bloodied bodies in the ballroom floor were his family members, killed out of mercy. He had saved the souls of the people he loved, he's quoted. They found his car parked at the JFK International Airport in New York City, but there was no trace of List, and the trail pretty much
went cold. After a month, I'm sure. Also, like, no offense, but like, maybe I'm just a normal person, but like, talk about guilt. Like, Can you imagine existing for that? Like, you never know when they found your family.
Mm-mm.
You don't know if they're looking. Like, talk
Nothing.
about, like, just, that would, like, eat you alive.
Yeah, I would think so, but obviously he is
He's fine.
like helping himself think he did a good thing. I don't know.
Oh.
Anyway, 18 years later, the List family murder case had gone cold early on, and New Jersey prosecutors refused to give up their hunt for justice. In 1989, they came up with the idea to contact Michael Linder, who was the executive producer of America's Most Wanted, and told them about the case. Linder was intrigued, but he wanted to ensure that he had an updated image of John List to air on the program, as so many years had passed since the murders.
Right.
Linder said to Philadelphia Inquirer in 1989, "It seemed to me that it was a job for Frank Bender. Bender was an expert forensic artist, and he agreed to create a physical burst of John List as Bender imagined he might have aged. Bender gave him like a more hawk-like beak of a nose, like thicker grizzled eyebrows, glasses, and psychologists theorized that List would wear the same type of spectacles that he would have worn as a man to remind him of his more like successful days.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it was almost like a perfect depiction of John List.
Creepy.
When America's Most Wanted aired the story of the murders on May 21st, 1989, an audience of almost or over 22 million people saw Frank Bender's sculpture, and tips came pouring in. One woman from Richmond, Virginia, thought her next door neighbor Robert Clark bore a striking resemblance to the bust, and the tipster said his neighbor was also an accountant and attended church. Authorities went to Clark's home and spoke to his wife, whom he'd met at a church social gathering in 1977 and married in 1985.
Ugh.
Her story put an end to the 18-year-long mystery. It turned out that List had changed his identity, moved to Colorado under the assumed name Robert Clark. The alias worked, and he kept it up when he moved to Richmond. Police in Virginia arrested John List on June 1st, 1989, a mere 10 days after the America's Most Wanted aired the case.
Holy cow.
In his trial in 1990, defense lawyers argued that List suffered from PTSD from his military service in World War II in Korea. Expert psychologists believed that List was going through a midlife crisis, but as the prosecution pointed out, there was no excuse for killing 5 innocent people. The jury found List guilty, and a judge sentenced him to 5 life terms in a New Jersey prison.
Can you imagine? Sorry, just like, can you imagine being that woman who married him?
No, and like finding out because of a America's Most Wanted episode.
Well, like cops show up at your house, and it's like, hey, your husband bears a striking resemblance to this man who murdered
His entire family
in a very systematic and disgusting way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, because immediately be like, no, that's not my fucking husband. There's no way. And then like he gets arrested, and he's like, yeah, I'm actually, my name's John, and this whole time you've been calling him fucking
Robert Clark. Yeah, I cannot imagine.
How do you? Also, I just want to. Maybe it's just me. How do you fake all of that? Because like he had to have a marriage certificate. So you need like all this proof of.
So he pretty much just forged all of these documents to be able to like assume this new identity as he moved to Colorado.
Yeah, so he would have had to forge like a social security card, a driver's license, insurance paperwork.
Maybe you didn't have to do that much work in the 70s.
You just had to sign your name.
Pretty much.
My name, Robert.
No kidding. So eventually in 2002, List interviewed for ABC and stated that he didn't kill himself after murdering his own family because he felt that would prevent him from getting into heaven.
Not the murder.
All List wanted was to reunite with his wife, mother, and children in the afterlife, where he believed there would be no pain or suffering. He eventually died in prison in 2008 at the age of 82. Now, the mansion in New Jersey, where the List family was killed, burned down several months after the murders. Authorities never found a cause for the fire. and a new house was built on the property years later. The memory of the murder still haunts the residents. However, children reportedly will not walk past the property to this day.
Same. Like, you could tell me like a number of reasons why I don't need to walk past certain houses, and atop of that list, 5 people murdered in that home. I just can't imagine this guy. Like, this guy is just a fucking narcissist.
100%.
To be like, I'll be reunited with my family who I murdered. It's like, do you think your family wants to see you?
No. Well, that, and so pretty much then when they use this story within the Watcher, it's based in this New Jersey town, because the Watcher story is also in a New Jersey town.
Oh,
not the same one, but they're like close by. And so the idea of this Netflix series then is that like this family moved into the house that he murdered his family in, but he's under a different alias. Like, he hadn't been caught yet. And so he's like watching them.
Ew.
And like they had kids similar age to like he had 8 kids, and like all of these different things of like this guy's like, oh, it's hard to afford the house, and this guy randomly shows up and he's like, yeah, it's a big house, it's hard to afford, and it's like all of these parallels of their lives, and it's just insane. It's like so creepy. You should watch it. I highly recommend, if you haven't watched the Watch on Netflix. It's good. It's kind of scary. I had nightmares, but it was worth it.
I watched like the first like episode or 2.
It's a little slow at the beginning, but like once you're into it, there's so many different avenues of like who you think might be the Watcher, and eventually like they don't really quite like answer it, but there's lots of different things of who it might be, and I think there's supposed to be a 2nd season coming out.
Ooh.
So there you go.
There we go. That sounds really cool. Well, that was awesome. Yeah, I can't imagine being anybody in that scenario. Also, like, this is why I can't work in like law enforcement. If a man said to me like, well, I murdered them because
I wanted to save myself to get into heaven with them, I'd be like, no fucking way. You're stupid. Like,
I'm like, firstly, I don't have the patience. Secondly, if you said that to me, I would laugh in your face. And then I would say, no. Not that I get to like make that decision at the end of the day, but like, man, it's gonna be a real bummer
when
and
you're
a real
not
hot
there.
one.
Yeah.
You know, like,
God.
Jeez Louise. Also, I'm like, I can only imagine if you somehow got up there. I don't know how you do it. If your wife saw you, she's kicking your ass.
She is beating you down with your mom and your kids.
Your 85-year-old mother's gonna like beat the crap out of you. Also, how do you go? Like, this is just like, I can't imagine why they're like, oh, he had PTSD, which he might have, but like, and that's why he did it. The man went to his kid's soccer game after killing 4 out of the 5 of them. Was like, good. Can you imagine that car ride? Being like, good job, buddy. Walk in the house and then boom. So why put him on sleeping bags? Just like, no offense. Just
and
like,
then
set him
blare like funeral music and leave
for a month. How creepy.
It's just a
Can
weird...
you imagine being a neighbor? See, again, I can't imagine being anybody in this situation. Because if you were a neighbor,
I can't imagine being the like new wife. Like, how do you move on?
You don't trust anybody. There's no way. Also, it's like, talk about like wolf in sheep's clothing, because you meet him at a church dinner.
He's an accountant.
You think there's no way this man's like a danger to society.
God.
Oh, ick. What a good one though. I feel like it's a perfect amount of like creepy and like spooky.
Well, and I appreciate that he eventually got put to justice.
Oh.
I don't know if there's any amount of justice that takes away the pain of like your entire family being blown up, but he at least like didn't get away forever, you know? Which I appreciate.
I'm glad justice was served.
Justice was served. Also, I loved America's Most Wanted. So
that show like caught a lot of people.
Oh, that, and like I just is crazy to me, like just the turn of events of like how quickly it worked, and like I don't know, it's just crazy.
Well, I can gaslight myself out of just about anything. So if I saw someone like, if you know this person, call in, and it's like a rough sketch, I'm like, God, that looks like my neighbor. I'm not calling because I'm gonna be like, there's no way.
Especially because it's like, yeah, some
sketch, like you're not even sure. Like if it was like, I follow some people on TikTok now that's like they try and do very much like the public justice of like helping find people, and it's like real life images, and those I'm like are a little more
like if you saw someone you'd have a better idea.
Yeah, but I've also like there was one time I googled. I was like back in the day. Did you ever Google yourself back in the day?
Oh, 100%.
All the time. And but I did Google myself. I Googled one of my friends at the time, and a picture popped up of like 3 girls, and I'm not kidding. The one girl I thought was me, like looked so much like me, like had the same glasses. I had those brown rectangles at the time.
That's
same
crazy.
Glasses, like same face shape, made the same face, but I didn't know the 2 girls with fake me.
Oh my god!
And it was like I've never been able to find that picture again. But I remember that day I screenshotted it or I like saved it, and I was like showing it to people, and like my mom even was like, "Who are you with?" And I was like,
"That's not.
I don't think that's me." But it looked like me because like when I crinkle, I have like these weird lines that go right here. Whatever face that chick was making, exact same lines. I like have freckles on my arm that are in like a perfect line. You can see it on her arm, perfect line. So I have either someone has photoshopped me into a photo, and I wasn't very old, but or like I have a legit doppelganger out there that like came up.
Maybe it's like an alternate universe or like parallel universe.
Yeah, but like it came up when I searched her, like one of my good friends' names.
And
she wasn't in the picture.
That's weird.
It was the weirdest thing, and I was like, "This is
terrifying."
And then like I sent it around. I was like, "That's not me." And then someone's like, "Well, I guess maybe it's not you." And I was like, "I thought it was
God,
me."
I have no idea who it is. Yeah,
are you sure it's not me? Maybe I was like, did I black out?
Right?
Did I miss a chunk of
I would gaslight myself into feeling like I must have taken this picture, but I don't know where or when or how.
Well, Hannah, I kind of wanted to bring us back. I didn't even give you any time to think about this, so ha. But one of our old-time tried and trues on this show was our absolutely not section.
Oh, we're bringing it back.
We are going to bring it back this episode. Hannah and I have had a little bit rougher of a week this past week, and intended probably a rough week moving forward, but hopefully it'll be all right. That being said, I had to go to the mall today. Which, firstly, like, the mall's a lot at any point in time. But especially on, like, a Monday at 2 or whatever time it was, 1:30, and there's, like, no one there, so it's kind of creepy. My absolutely not has nothing to do with, like, it being creepy. My absolutely not is every store I went into, like, brick and mortar store, the rows are so close together that like trying to walk through without knocking something off or like taking my purse out was nearly impossible. I had to walk through Maurice's today because that's where I got the dress that I needed for an event, and I'm not kidding. I knocked the same dress off the same rack. Oh, that probably 4
when
times.
I like knock something off. Something too, and I put it back and then I knock it off again too. I'm like,
and it was like it felt like there was so much stuff in this one corner that I couldn't even like properly look through it without like, I would like move the rack and the front thing falls on the ground.
Oh my god!
And then I was like, I just need to look at what size this outfit is. And I am telling you, I was like, I need to just leave. And then of course, like as I'm like crawling across the ground to pick up like the 4 things that I dropped, that's of course when the associate's like, "You finding everything okay?" Like, fuck off. I want you to know, I know this is part of your job, but like, you're about to get a middle finger salute. Like, go away.
There's certain stores where it's like, it's not even worth me walking through there because I can't handle how like cluttered and disorganized it is.
Kohl's. I can't go to Kohl's.
Exactly. Like their clearance, you can get stuff on sale so well, but you can't even look at half of their stuff because it's just shoved in no
particular order.
None. It's awful.
Yeah, down when I lived in La Crosse, our Kohl's was also like the return spot for Amazon packages.
Yeah, that's what this one is.
You know? And I had to return an Amazon package. I remember being like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go."
Because I think you get like a coupon if you return it there. Yes.
I was like, I'll walk around. It'll be so fun. And it was my hell because I was like looking at the vacuums, and all of a sudden, like I got hit with a pot and a pan, and then there was like a bra shoved in like cookware, and I was like,
Where are you supposed to be?
This
It's
is
not here.
This is the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, never mind, I'm leaving. But yeah, it's a great store because it's cheap. Kohl's Cash, love it. But yeah, that was my.
You have to like have a lot of time to commit to being able to look through those things.
Yeah, it was. I was like, today, I'm not kidding. I knocked like 75 things off the rack, and I was like, I'm leaving. You cannot make me stay.
Yeah.
I refuse. Also, it's like, again, I'm in a deserted mall,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like walking around, and if I got asked once, I got asked like 18 times. You find everything okay? Can I help you find anything? And I'm like, please let me out.
Oh, that's a good one.
Do you have any absolutely nots?
You know what? I'm gonna throw back to your trend of weather,
Oh, perfect.
but like piggyback off that. So I had the lovely joy of taking my students on a field trip today, and it was like your like misty rain.
Yeah, it was kind of a crap day today.
Where it's like it was cold and it was windy and it was misting, and like my hair just doesn't do well in that type of weather. It's like so frizzy.
Yeah.
It was so like damp that you couldn't like nicely brush it. So it's like I'm just gonna leave it down because it's gonna look worse if I try to like
Put it up.
and also I need the warmth. And then we had to go back to school early, and I, for the life of me, could not get warm.
No.
And I just hate that feeling of like you being damp and cold. And then like you're doing like I had like 3 blankets on. I'm like wrapped up at school, and I'm like, I cannot warm up. I'm like miserable. And
cold to the bone.
that's my absolutely not. I feel like it's always the misty weather.
It's
That you get the most
Yeah.
cold. And it's probably because you stand outside longer because you're like, I'm not that wet until you're like wet.
You're just wet.
Mhm.
One, it's not raining hard enough when it's misting to like warrant a rain jacket, really,
When I
or
was
an
wearing
umbrella.
a rain jacket,
My
and I
rain
was still
jacket-
cold.
I feel like I'm always just wet.
Yes.
maybe it's a me problem. Maybe it's my rain jacket's issue. But I'm like, in this kind of weather, it just you feel like your whole body is damp.
Yeah, it was awful. And we're like walking to try to stay warm, so then you're like sweating a little bit. Like the lower part of my back, the only part that was actually warm is like sweating, and then it's cold because you're sweating.
Like, body, you're not doing it right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
no.
absolutely not.
And it's been windy as hell. This like
Since
Christmas. It's been friggin' windy. And it's just like I feel very Midwestern because I'm like,
If it wasn't
so windy, it would be nice out.
but
Because
genuinely,
generally, I got up. I was dog sitting this past weekend, which was great. But I got up early every morning so we could go outside and make sure he got outside and did his business and whatever. And at like 7:30, pleasant as all get out outside. I'm in like my PJs, which is t-shirt and shorts, and I was like, this is very comfortable.
Yeah.
And then I took him on a walk at like 9.
It was
And
awful.
I was like ready to curl up
yes.
and not exist. And of course, then a dog walked by me, like, yeah! And I was like, oh, here we go. This is why I don't do dog walking for a living. I would panic.
Oh,
Panic. Also, I can't pick up that much poop. I can't do it. I refuse. Like, my cat poops in a box.
I have just like one
I have like
2 foot by 2 foot 3 foot radius that I have to clean.
that's my got a big old like it's got one big litter box,
Mhm.
and that is my cross to bear.
Yep.
No, we walk outside, he can poop anywhere. What a time.
Confidence.
The confidence, the gall. I mean, I feel like he always does it when like a car is going by. I'm like, you just want people to know I have to pick up your shit. Which like shouldn't. It's not embarrassing. It's a dog, but I don't know. I'm like, I want them to know I'm like a good citizen. I'm not gonna like just like leave it. But also,
Yeah.
it's like nothing more humiliating than like having a bag over your head.
Yeah. Was you're waiting.
Like, ooh,
Yeah.
yeet.
Oh well.
I took a tangent at the end there. Thank you all for listening. Sorry, I got really close to the mic there. If you like what you hear, go ahead, like, share, and follow us on all of our socials at I don't think so _EH, or check out our YouTube at IDTS Conspiracies. But until next time, stay spooky. I don't know. Stay alive.
Don't get murdered.
No murder for you.
Bye.